Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Workbench, your resource-rich weekly podcast and newsletter for home service owner-operators. Excited to be joined by Joshua Despain, who's running Brother Gutters in the St. Louis market. Really excited to learn about his experience being a franchisee, building out that business, and really just hear his perspective on things. So, Joshua, how's your week going so far?
Doing great.
Yeah.
It's a busy season, and got to the end of the week. It's successful, full install week, so it's always a good sign.
Nice. Cool, man. Well, yeah, tell us a little bit about how you got into Brother Gutters as a franchisee, your background leading up to that, and just, your career in general, and then we can roll from there.
Sure. I'm not a serial entrepreneur, so this was basically the first company that I owned. Before COVID, I started looking for companies to buy. I really didn't want to do the startup phase because who wants to? I couldn't find anything that made sense, so I started looking at some franchises and found this one. Not specifically looking for gutters or anything like that, but I liked the culture, the brothers that started it. I didn't have to rewrite the wheel on that, so it seemed like an exciting opportunity. Got into this about 3.5 years ago now. Before that, I've always done operations management, so worked at some big companies like Bridgestone and 3M. Worked at some small companies too. So very used to implementing processes, and that's kind of what you do with the franchise. You implement a process. So
Yeah, so you were looking to buy a business and kind of go out on your own. What were you looking for? Was it gutter specific, home services in general? What was your criteria during that search?
no, the only thing that stopped me from ever opening a business of my own anyway was that I never had a clear vision of what business I would open, and so um, I still didn't have that. I still don't have that really. I kind of didn't care a whole lot. I was kind of looking for what did excite me or what did kind of spark some interest for me. So I wasn't specifically looking for home services or gutters. What I wanted to do was kind of, as a lifelong employee and the son of a lifelong employee, I wanted to experience the American dream. I really wanted to kind of go and say, I want to throw all the cards on the table and bet on myself. Um, I felt like I was wasting an opportunity here in America by just being an employee. So, not to knock just being an employee, I'm just saying, like, I felt like I was kind of wasting something there. So I wanted to go out and venture on my own and take the risk, and um, that's what really motivated me and led me to do it.
So when it came time to think about joining Brothers Gutters or any franchise in general, what was your evaluation process? How'd you find out about the opportunity? And then what were some of the things you were thinking through? I'm not deeply familiar with the process of getting approved to be a franchisee. Was there a lot of money you had to put up? Just walk me through that process of you first finding out about Brothers Gutters and then going to, hey, I'm now running this business.
Sure. It's you know, the franchise has to approve you as well. Although I think it's very rare for a franchise to turn down the prospective owner. Um, the process more has to do with you vetting them out. I had looked at a number of different franchises. I won't name any of them. I won't badmouth any of them, but they all sound really good up front. They all talk about, hey, we have this process. It's proven. This is how much money you can kind of make. Sort of, they don't ever claim it. Um, I actually went through pretty far in the process with several of them through like a confirmation day sort of thing, and they give you access to some other owners to talk to. And what I found out is to just buyer beware. Just be very, very careful. Do your due diligence. What I found is a lot of them say that we run this process, and this process gets these results. And then I spoke to a bunch of owners. I would do a lot of owner calls, probably more than the average person does. And I found that, oh no, we don't run that process. It didn't work. Or, oh really? That's the process? I never even knew about it. So like it was all basically them marketing their franchise. Brothers Gutters, I found through broker, like a lot of them, fill out one form and you'll get about 800 calls from franchise brokers. And so I got in pretty early. He had just heard about it. He told me about it. Pluses and minuses to that were they did have 18 locations, and so they could kind of prove the concept, but they had nothing national. It's not like a nationally proven concept. And so there was a little bit of risk there. What sold me was, though, that I spoke to almost all 18 of the current owners, and they all ran the process. and they all ranted and raved about the company, the ownership, the culture, and the process. So it was honestly, out of looking at probably 50 different franchises, it was the first one where the people who ran the process, who owned the locations, was consistent with what the franchisor was claiming. So that let me know that they had integrity, that the system worked at least on that scale, and that it was a culture that I could buy into.
Now let's talk about gutters specifically.
Yeah,
What was your experience cleaning, fixing, repairing gutters prior to starting, and then what was it like, kind of learning that trade? And are you still the one that goes out and does the work? Do you have employees? To kind of talk to me about doing the work.
sure. Um, I had never cleaned the gutters. I had never touched a gutter. I had never thought about gutters ever. So my experience was zilch. Um, I mean, I've got some hand. I'm a handy guy kind of thing. I like building furniture and stuff like that. So, but still, not even real construction experience. I don't even have that. So, definitely a learning curve. Also, I would never do the gutters without the franchise, right? Because of that. But where am I going to go start a gutter company for? Right? I have no idea. So, the learning process. One of my bosses a long time ago used a phrase: "Be a student of your profession." No matter what it is, you got to keep learning about it. You got to stay in it and become an expert in it. And I've always been very driven to be like that. So, a lot of learning the first few months. I wasn't out installing a ton. I never wanted to be the installer guy. I wanted to own the company, not be the company. So I always had installers hired to do that. I always had a salesperson as well. That's not how every owner opens, but that's how I did it. I didn't want to build a company where I wore every hat. Some owners have gotten into that situation where they're like, well, I'm my best installer. How do I replace me? Or I'm my best salesperson. I don't know how to replace me. I never wanted to be like that. I wanted to have great people doing great things, and I'll be behind the scenes. So I never really went and installed, not a lot. I mean, I helped here and there, did some sales, didn't do a whole lot of it. Um, but within about 6 months, I was talking with the roofers, and I want to be a little careful. I don't want to be too. I was talking with the roofers, and it's interesting. It's funny. So I've only in the industry for maybe 6 months, and they're telling me, "Wow, I'm really impressed. You really know your stuff. You know more than I do about gutters." And in the back of my head, I'm thinking, "What?" I think honestly, gutters is one of those scenarios where people don't give it attention, people don't think about it, and even roofers, generally speaking, don't. They just like replacing what's there for insurance purposes, generally speaking. And so, as soon as you just start giving it attention, you start learning so much about it, above and beyond what even other people in the industry know. It's pretty easy to become an expert in gutters. It's not rocket science, and a lot of it's just figuring, seeing the different scenarios, right? Seeing the problems can arise from this and that and whatever, and applying those problem solving thoughts to it. So I'm still learning, of course, but I mean, I'm a gutter guy now. I can talk gutters, and I know about them more than most people out there. So
For people that are listening that may be wanting to get into home services, which is a very common trend that I've seen and we've documented here on the Workbench, which is someone starts off, they go through a traditional career path, insurance, tech, finance, something corporate, W-2, 9 to 5, and they say, man, this just is not for me. I want to be out. I don't want to be sitting behind a computer all day. And so they go and find a career or start a business in home services. For folks that are thinking through whether they start their own, if they have the means to buy their own, or potentially get into a franchise, what are some of the main value adds that you see for the person that's the naysayer, right? That's, man, I'll set up my own website, I'll set up my own ads, I can figure out how to clean a gutter. From your perspective, what are some of the things that joining a franchise made really easy on you? And then if there's any things that, now that you've gone through it, you're like, man, I probably could have done some of this on my own. Would love to hear kind of that value add equation from a franchise.
sure. Um, well, first and foremost, there's a knowledge base there, and there's actually a team that will support you. Now, different franchises may offer different type of support and be different quality of support, everything, of course. But um, that alone, I had it. Before I ever opened the actual like day one where we're out there doing anything, I had quite a bit of experience and training with hands-on gutters, right? So it definitely allowed me to not feel as, wide-eyed. So if you don't know anything about it, that's the first thing, is if franchise gives you that step into the industry. Um, the other thing that they allowed me to do is, I've ran business. I have an MBA. I was I never got to a C level anything, but like a district manager for a number of different large companies. So I'm used to managing and P&Ls and expense management and all this stuff, right? But I don't have experience with a number of other things. I don't have experience with accounting. I don't have experience with marketing. That just wasn't my trade. I had departments, so if I had to deal with HR, I called the HR department. If I had to deal with marketing, I called the marketing department. And so this is kind of like you're in between being completely on your own and being an employee in a big company.
Yeah.
Because I have support on things I don't know. I didn't know anything how to do, and I still don't know a lot to do with it. So like marketing, I don't know how to run Google AdWords, and they run it for me with no additional cost. So whatever I want to spend is fine, but they manage the AdWords without me having to pay someone to manage the AdWords.
Nice.
Right? They make the logos and the content, and they'll make custom content. If I want to make a custom mailer or a custom ad, they have graphic designers that will do that for me, and they use all the appropriate colors in the scheme of things and stuff. So I can be creative on the marketing side,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't have to be the creative, or the creator of it. And they can help manage like social media. I'm a dork. I hate social media. I didn't even have a Facebook account before doing this. I had to make one because the company has a page, right? So if they help manage those areas where it would be really a blind spot to me. And though I've learned more about them, and I'm still trying to learn more about those things and become better at marketing and better at social and all these things, I don't have to stress myself out about it because there's someone doing it for me right now, right? And that's a huge value add. So I've been able to spend more of my time doing what I do well and less of my time doing what I don't do well. And I think if you went out completely on your own, you're going to very quickly find, if you haven't owned a company before, if you're a seasoned entrepreneur, you know this already. But if you haven't, then nothing will expose you as much as becoming a business owner. All of your weaknesses, all of your strengths become amplified.
Yeah.
So once you're by yourself and you go, oh crap, I didn't know how to do this and that. Now you're struggling to fill in that gap with no help. And a franchise will help fill in that gap with assistance for you and help with doing that.
Yeah. Lead generation, I think, is a particularly interesting concept in the franchise game because, if I start Brian's Gutters, it's kind of on me. I'm going to create a website. I'm going to put up the Google My Business here in Austin. I'm going to maybe run some ads here in Austin. But it's just on me, right? There's no national Brian's Gutters. For you guys, there's a Brothers Gutters in 18 locations, 18 different states. What is the relationship between the national marketing push and how they're driving leads for you versus what's on your plate? And I guess, just the general customer journey from someone finding Brothers Gutters and then realizing there's one in their city and then kind of getting in contact with you. How's that all work?
Sure. To be clear, it's actually more like 120 locations now.
Oh, wow. Okay. When you first started, it was 18.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were in there early. Nice.
Yeah. So I got in kind of right when they went national.
Got it. Okay.
That was quite a bit. So,
Wow.
I mean, the goal is to become the first nationally recognized or nationally known, like, full service gutter company.
Understood.
There's some guard companies out there that have big names, but we want to be a full service gutter company. So the national marketing, that's actually something I have a blind spot to. They do some national level marketing where they definitely highlight, obviously, big population areas and stuff like that. The way our franchises ran is that we do have a consolidated call center that's managed by the franchisor. It's not off seas. They're all Brothers Gutters employees, which is nice. At least in some regard, it's nice. And so when someone calls in, if they see any advertising that we have, and they call in, they always get answered. I don't have to worry about who's answering. In other words, I don't have to employ someone at my local office to answer.
Yeah.
And they just divvy it up per zip code, right? If I own the zip code, I get the lead. So, and in my market, I own the whole market. So basically anyone around, if they call, they're going to get scheduled for us to go and check out. Most of the ad spend, though, is on the local customer or on the local branch. So, with a franchise, one learning curve was it still is my business. Like, at the end of the day, if you fail, they're not like the franchisor is not at risk. Like they don't hold any of my debt. They don't, they would miss out on some revenue, but someone else would come in and open it up. Like at the end of the day, it's my business. I own it and I need to be worried about it. And that's some mistake that some franchisees make, is thinking that all that responsibility is on the franchisor. And they go, my lead flow is bad. You're doing something wrong. No, 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 no. Go get the leads. Go network. Go into some chamber of commerce, BNI. Go knock on doors. Go put out door signs. Go do mailers. Go get creative. And go get those leads, because it's your business. At the end of the day, you're responsible for it. So.
Yeah, I think that it's easy, and maybe I could see how if you become a franchisee, you then almost have a pseudo employee mindset where it's like, hey, this is your business, Brothers Gutters. I'm just your local representative. But no, you're a business owner, and all of the risk is on you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the folks that made a transition from employee to a franchise within Brothers Gutters, like I see the difference. So people who were business owners before typically don't have that type of attitude.
Right.
The folks like me who made that transition have kind of a learning curve where they kind of go, they want to blame the other department. There's no other department. It's still my business. It's all my business. Yeah. So, you got to take ownership of it. No matter what your franchise relationship is, you still have to take ownership of your business.
Now, for your business, although it is part of a franchise, it is your business. How's the growth been from an employee perspective? Hiring, I always hear, is one of the biggest challenges of home services. I just love to hear about the growth. You've been doing it for a bit now. Have you had to hire a bunch of people? Have you had to get a bunch of new trucks? Just kind of walk me through the growth trajectory of the business if you can.
Yeah. So I would say I use the term, we had catastrophic growth. We grew really fast. We became like one of the biggest locations very, very quickly. And on one side, that's a testament to what we were doing and how hard we were working here, and the risk we were taking, the creativity we were displaying. On the other side, that was very difficult. I had to pour a lot of money and leverage the business very heavily to buy those trucks, to buy the machines, to hire the people. And that's not as maybe fun as organic growth, because you have to borrow money to do it. You have to get the money from somewhere. So all your profits basically go back in the business to grow. We've definitely had to hire a lot of people, made a lot of mistakes on that. You're absolutely right. Hiring installers is the hardest part of this whole thing. So that's just been a challenge. Training is difficult because it's a skilled position. It's not, one thing I look back on and think, maybe a different franchise would be a little bit easier is, I like pest control. I don't know anything about pest control, but I bet you could probably get someone who's never done pest control before, and within a week they're out on their own spraying chemicals around someone's home, right? It's not a high skill position. With gutters, no. We're talking, if you find the right person, maybe months until they can lead a truck, but otherwise, you're probably talking over a year before someone can really have the experience and speed to confidently run a crew on a truck. So it's a long training time. So it's very difficult to replace a seasoned person because one, they're hard to find, and two, they're really hard to home grow too. So you want to home grow them, but it's very, very difficult to find those people. It takes a long learning curve to get them.
Something I've always been curious. I run a software business, and so I talk to a lot of independent companies and a lot of franchisees and franchises. Software is big. Everyone has a CRM. Everyone has tools for this, that, and the other thing. I'm curious from just like a software and then just more generally tools perspective, whether it's the CPA for your business or the attorney for your how does the relationship with the franchise work for those things? Are they telling you exactly who and what to use to run the business? Can you use QuickBooks if you want and they recommend NetSuite? And can you pick your attorney? Where does the line draw in between them recommending versus demanding that you use certain tools and certain people for certain things?
Sure. That's a good question. I think it depends on the franchise. So with Brothers Gutters, they're fairly in my from my experience talking with other franchise owners, I would say they're a little bit more hands off than most. I don't have to buy my material from any specific people. I don't have to carry any specific like gutter guards. I don't have to use a lot of specific stuff. The few things that they control is we do all have to be on the one CRM. We can't all be on different CRMs. So the franchisor controls that. So the one that we use right now isn't great. Again, I'm not going to throw out names. I'm not going to do that. We don't like it. We're working to switch as a franchise to a different CRM.
Jobber, House Call Pro,
Uh,
Service Titan. No, you don't have to say. You don't have to say. It's okay.
I'm not saying anything.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to. I mean, it's public knowledge now, but we're going to switch to like a HubSpot based.
Got it. Yeah, HubSpot's great. We use that at our company.
Yeah, so we're excited, but it's not in play yet. And then we do have to use QuickBooks, so we're all in the same accounting software because they have to pull reports, for their FTDs and stuff like that. So those two things we have to use. The other ones are basically there's some suggestions, but no, I mean, there's no lawyer. I have my own lawyer, my own accountant, my own insurance, all that kind of stuff. Now, we are kind of unifying as a group because you get some buying power. Think of it as like a club, right? You kind of go in together and say, hey, we have 120 locations. Can we get better insurance rates if we can sign up, the more
100%.
Kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So, but they're still not, they're nothing like that is forced. So all of that stuff is on our own. I mean, yeah, we use Google AdWords, but who isn't going to right now? Like the bulk of our ads come from that. So they don't tell us we have to, but we all do because why wouldn't we? But really, I think those are the only two things that they really control heavily. That and branding, obviously, you can't use I can't make my own logo. Like you have to use company branding, so it's all consistent.
I'm thinking, I don't know if you've seen the movie The Founder about the starting of McDonald's, but it's on Netflix. It's really good. Michael Keaton stars as Ray Kroc, and just the dynamic and the tension between Ray Kroc and the original brothers who started it, and certain franchisees using wrong branding and adding menu items. It's like a really interesting exploration of that relationship.
Yeah, that is an interesting one. Thankfully, we're just not as controlled like that. I mean,
Yeah.
there's too much flexibility in our industry, at least right now, for that. If they were going to try to control more, they'd have to rewrite the contracts and have us sign them. So, which they might end up doing. They might try to go down that road with certain things, but as of now, it's fairly open. So,
If someone came to you and said, "Hey, Joshua, I just submitted one of those forms with a broker. I have 80 franchises hitting me up from dog daycares to poop scoopers to pest control to gutters, and I'm thinking about going with one of them, but I just don't know how to decide." What are like the 2 to 3 things you would tell that person to really think about or look at before choosing a franchise?
um, I think I would say, what kind of business model do you want to run? Like, what really interests you? So, something like what we have with gutters. We have W-2 employees. We have pretty heavy capital needs. Like we need, we have box trucks with, $15,000 gutter machines in them, and ladders galore, and it's fairly capital heavy. I mean, some others are more, but it's a lot. And then you also have risk. I mean, I have all these employees driving around these trucks, and one of them gets in an accident. That's on my insurance. Yeah, personal, but like the point is like that insurance goes up real fast. So there's a lot of risk in that. Same with what my guys do. They're on roofs and on ladders, so falls are a big deal. Like that nothing will ruin your insurance faster than a fall. So that's one business model. Another business model that I looked into was one where you might have some 1099 salespeople, and you contracted out all the installs, and you could run the whole thing with probably no W-2 employees and no capital, no trucks, no warehouse or anything, and that's a whole different business model to run. And so I would consider like what type of business model do you want to run? Do you want to have 20 W-2 employees, or do you want to have some independent contractors that you don't have to work through HR processes with, and you can have as many of them as you want? And then, of course, what can you kind of stand behind? If you're going to be involved in the business at all, like in my case, I'm not excited. I'm not like gung ho gutters. I don't care that much about them, but I can stand behind my product. I understand what the value is that I'm offering and what we're selling, and I know what the value is to the home, and like I can stand behind it and I can understand it, and so I know that what we're offering somebody is a value. If you don't feel like what you're offering is a value, you won't succeed. Like it's really hard to sell this widget to someone if I don't think you are going to benefit from this widget. So at least if nothing else, if you don't have a passion for it, at least be able to stand behind it with integrity and know that what you're offering is valued to somebody.
Yeah, yeah, well said. For me, even if the thing I'm working on or doing at a given point isn't my favorite subject matter, if I know it will solve the problem that someone has or deliver a result that someone needs, that in and of itself I find energizing. So, Joshua, anything we didn't cover here that you wanted to share with the audience or talk about today?
I can't think of anything.
We got it all. We got it all. Perfect, man. Well, yeah, yeah.
I got so used to you asking me the questions, right? So
Yeah, no, all good, all good. So, yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on. For folks that are listening and want to check you out, your journey, your company, your personal socials, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. I know you're not a big social media guy, but where can folks listening check you and your business out?
you can look at brothersgutters.com, and there's obviously different locations on there. We're in St. Louis, so you can always check that out. Um, I don't honestly know my Facebook handle. I should
Yeah,
have
yeah,
prepared on that one. I'm sorry.
yeah, all good.
But I'm sure you look Brothers Gutters St. Louis.
Send it to me after. We'll put it in the show notes.
All right, there you go.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's about all. I'm not
Okay.
very findable. So
Yeah. All good, man. We'll definitely publish the business, get you a backlink out to your company website, which is always good. And yeah, Joshua, we appreciate you coming on. Hope you have a great weekend.
absolutely, you too. Thanks, Brian.